everybody to this edition of Mental Health Show, and today we'll be talking about dyslexia in children. This is a very important topic because it involves infants, children that may likely not be able to speak for themselves, but it really takes the care and concern of the teachers and the parents to really detect this. And now, what is dyslexia? Dyslexia can be defined as the difficulties in the reading and in the writing ability of an individual. But since our focus today is on the child, we are going to look more on the child. So it is a difficulties and the reading abilities that impairs in the child, that makes the child not able to read and to write well. Now, it also involves the way the brain processes graphics, it processes symbols, and it also processes the sound of words. So to every child, there is a different way this child processes the graphics, the pictorial meaning of things, the words that is being said to the child, and the symbol of those words. So it is not really a sickness, it is not really a challenge, it is not really a kind of like physical problem. It's just a mixed balance that occur in the brain. So dyslexia can be linked to gene. So it is mostly genetic. It can be linked to gene. Probably there's somebody in the family or it runs through the blood that struggles with dyslexia, so the child can equally struggle with it, which is the condition often runs in the family. So dyslexia is actually a condition that actually runs in the family. Now, our text today is taken from the book of Philippians chapter 4 verse 13, and it says, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So no matter the level, the stage of dyslexia, you can actually get rid of it. The child can actually get rid of it. The adults can actually get rid of it. Praise God. Now, dyslexia has some risk factor. So dyslexia number one, the risk factor is exposure during pregnancy. Exposure from the mother during pregnancy with some harmful things like drugs, alcohol, or infection can really expose the fetus. It can affect the development of the brain of the baby in the womb and makes the baby develop dyslexia. And it's also from premature birth or birth of low weight. When a baby is born prematurely and nothing is really put into consideration, or low weight, the baby is below normal, it can affect the development of the brain, and it can also be caused by genetic. So it's either running from the family, or it's either the mom is involved, the pregnant woman is involved in drinking, smoking, taking drugs, nicotine, and harmful drugs that stimulates the brain, and it affects the fetus, it affects the baby in the womb. So this is why, and this is how these difficulties comes into the child. Now, children becomes frustrated when they discover they can't read, they can't write. Now let's get this understanding. You will always see a child happy to go to school, but anytime this child is in class, the teacher teaches and the child is not understanding. Probably the teacher is asking the child, define this thing, I just define a noun, define it for me, and the child is looking lost. And ignorantly, the teacher may be blaming the child, not knowing that the child, at the other hand, wants to learn. So dyslexia makes children feel frustrated, and this is the genesis most of the mental illness occur. This is how it mostly occurred. Now, since dyslexia affects the reading and the writing ability, now the child won't be able to write exam very well, won't be able to participate with any activities that involve reading and writing, because already he or she is feeling the down, is like he or she can't cope, he or she can't read, he or she is struggling, he's reading this thing but it's escaping out from his mind and he's struggling with it. So this also causes depression. This is where mental health come into play. Dyslexias in children cause children to get depressed. That is why you see a child is always sick. You'll be seeing this phobia in the child anytime it's exam period, anytime it's test period, anytime activities that will involve the child being writing, talking, and all those things. Like, the child becomes depressed, and it makes the child get sad. It makes the child, it reduces the self-esteem of the child. So dyslexia is so harmful, though it looks very kind of like minor, but it's very harmful because it affects the esteem of the child, and the child grows with a low self-esteem into adulthood. So dyslexia in children are also likely to have behavior problems at homes. You will now see these children having behavior problems. They are now looking very stubborn, acting stubborn, they are very naughty, because dyslexia has already registered a basic on their mind that you can't scale through school, you can't pass exams, you're only reading but you can't understand. So because of that, they are revolting. They actually want to pass these exams, but they are just revolving with themselves. So they are likely to become very stubborn in schools, in the home, and everywhere. They become very naughty. So dyslexia in children also makes them become unmotivated. They don't feel motivated with anything that comes with academics. That's why you see them in class, they are making noise, they are distracting one another, they are either sleeping, they are either talking, because dyslexia has already registered into their mind that they can't do it, so they are feeling unmotivated. But from our text, it says you can do all things. You can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. Praise God. So dyslexia also develop a dislike for school. You will see that child disliking school. School is now like a burden. School is now like a problem. School is now like a stress to that child. The child is feeling so down because dyslexia is already taking over the mind and the brain of the person. Now, and their success may be jeopardized if the problem remain untreated. Their success in life may be jeopardized, may just be cut off, because from the child stage, he has believed, I don't know this, I can't know mathematics, I can't know chemistry, I can't know physics, I'm reading it but I'm not understanding it, that the teacher is teaching but I'm not getting it. It's because it has been registered into the mind of that child. So the child will feel so frustrated, and his success may also be jeopardized. So we have types of dyslexia. We have the primary dyslexias, we have the secondary dyslexias, and we have the visual dyslexias and the rest. Dyslexia can easily be detected when this child is just starting school, and it takes the parents to closely observe it. Now, for example, a child that is in kindergarten, new words are introduced to the child's brain, and when you discover that at this stage the child should be able to sing these rhymes, the child should be able to say this alphabet, the child should be able to do this, and you discover the child is not able to do that, you need to really look into the child closely. Now, dyslexia can be managed if early detected. So you don't just send your child to the school and you don't know if the teacher is really observing this child in class. Now, as a parent, when this child comes back home, you need to really follow up the child. Look into his notes, see his writings, see his reading ability, When you see all these things, it can be easily detected if this child is struggling with dyslexia. Now, to help someone struggling with dyslexia, you don't have to tell the child how bad, how inferior, how inability, as in, you don't need to tell the child how weak he is. Already, this child knows he can't do this thing, she can't do this thing. So, what you need to do as an individual to help this child is to, one, believe in the child, make the child believe in himself. Make the child believe in himself, and so increasing the self-esteem of that child. When the child believes that he can actually read through this thing, he can actually spell this word, he can actually pass this exam, the child will increase his ability to know that thing. So you first of all help the child to believe in himself by saying words that comfort the child, by saying things that the child will believe and trust in himself more. Secondly, you bring those words that are more difficult to the child for the child to start learning them. You start making it simpler. You start making it understandable for the child. You start breaking it down. Look for other means to teach the child that particular thing. Like, for example, we have spellings. If the child can't spell its stretch, then you need to be creative as a parent, you need to be creative as a teacher to know how to explain it better to the level of this child. Remember, this child is not sick, it's only the differences. So if a normal child understands CAT to be cat, a child struggling with dyslexia may not really understand that, wow, CAT is cat. So as a teacher, as a parent, you need to be creative enough to know, okay, for you to make this child understand cat properly, you need to put up a diagram. Properly, you need to bring out the picture. Properly, you need to bring out the color. Properly, you need to make something more attractive to explain what that really means. So, to a child struggling with dyslexia, he or she only needs something more extra. So the child needs extra concentration, the child needs extra believing in himself, the child needs the parents to know that yes, he can actually scale through. The child needs that words of trust and everything to build this esteem in the child. So if you're just teaching everybody a normal thing and a child struggling with dyslexia is having issues in understanding this, you only need to go extra. So to the parents out there, I'm only here to tell you that your child is not the problem. Dyslexia is the problem, and you can handle dyslexia when you look more into your child, when you believe in your child, when you allow your child to believe in himself. So whenever the child comes back from school, get to know what he or she have learned, get to know how far he or she understands each subject, and to the subject that is more difficult to the child, look for an extra means to explain better, not in a harsh way, but let it be in an atmosphere that the child will accommodate. You can play some good songs to make the child understand it. You can play some videos, children videos, to captivate the mind of the child. You can be creative enough to make the child understand that subject, and I know with God by your side, you'll be able to handle dyslexia. So thank you very much for watching. If you have a question, you have anything to share, please you can drop it in the comment section. I'll be glad to receive it. Thank you, and remember, you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. I love you, but Jesus loves you most. Bye bye.